The alien colony of Kar drifted silently at the edge of the Zareth star cluster, a lonely outpost that hugged the thin line between life and death. Its towering spires of metal and glass caught the pale light of the distant suns, reflecting sharp, cold angles into the void. For decades, the colony had survived on trade routes and mining operations, extracting rare minerals from nearby asteroids to maintain its fragile economy. Its people were cautious, disciplined, and arrogant, believing themselves untouchable in a galaxy that rarely bothered to look their way. That calm shattered one night. Alarms blared across the colony, sending red lights flickering through narrow corridors and broad landing platforms. The sensors had detected something unusual, a faint signal, weak and irregular, coming from the nearby system where humans were rumored to exist. A strange, persistent code pulsed across the alien scanners. They had seen human communications before, primitive bursts of data and language patterns that were barely intelligible. Yet this signal, it was different. It carried urgency, a call for help. The alien leaders gathered in the command tower, watching the sensor feeds with a mix of curiosity and amusement. Humans, sneered Commander Thalcor, his scaled fingers tapping against the console. Weak, fragile creatures. Why would they ever send a call for aid here? Perhaps they are desperate. His second-in-command, Lyra, raised an eyebrow. And what if they are not as weak as we think? Thalcor laughed, the sound metallic and harsh. Even if they are dangerous in small numbers, they cannot hope to challenge us. They have no fleet, no weapons that can harm a colony of our size. This SOS is nothing. But the unease lingered. Something about the pattern of the signal felt unnatural. The code was human, yes, but layered with a complexity the aliens did not expect. It hinted at desperation but also cunning, as if the humans knew exactly who might be watching. The colony's communication arrays buzzed, and a low hum grew from the sensors. Then, without warning, the sky above Kar lit up with an unnatural brilliance. Massive shadows stretched across the horizon, moving faster than anything the colony had ever seen. Report. Thalcor barked, gripping the console. Identify the source. The junior officer stared at the screen, wide-eyed. Commander, they're human. Hundreds of them. Warships. They just appeared. Thalcor froze. His claws hovered over the console, trembling slightly, not with fear, but disbelief. The humans were supposed to be helpless, weak, scattered. Yet here they were. A fleet of warships, immense and silent, materializing as if the void itself had spat them out. Each vessel bristled with weaponry, their hulls shimmering with a strange, alien energy. Plasma cannons glowed like molten veins, and long-range disruptors hummed in the darkness, ready to strike. The colony's panic spread like wildfire. Alarms rang from every tower, lights flashed erratically, and automated defenses scrambled to engage the unknown threat. Small fighter drones zoomed out from hangars, firing volleys into the void, but the humans were already in attack formation, moving with terrifying precision. Every shot the aliens fired was anticipated, dodged, or absorbed. From the command tower, the colonists watched in horror. Entire squadrons of alien ships were obliterated in moments. Explosions tore through the atmosphere, leaving trails of debris that glimmered like stars in the night. Panic escalated. Citizens ran through streets and corridors, shouting warnings to one another. Children clung to their parents, while laborers abandoned their posts. Kar, once a symbol of stability, descended into chaos. And still, the humans landed. Huge dropships descended from orbit, moving through the atmosphere with ease. Their hulls cut through clouds of debris, as if the very air bent around them. When they touched the ground, the impact was minimal, but the presence of humans was overwhelming. Soldiers poured out, clad in armor that gleamed black and silver, each carrying weapons the aliens had never seen. They moved with silent precision, scanning the environment, calculating every step. There was no hesitation, no confusion, only deadly intent. Thalcor's voice trembled now, though he tried to mask it with anger. Send reinforcements. Mobilize the fleet. Kill them before they before they reached the city. Lyra watched him, her eyes narrowing. She had never felt fear like this, not even in the border wars against the Rhinax cluster. Commander, they are not just here to fight. They came knowing exactly what to do. They strike like hunters. They are, she swallowed, organized. Terrifyingly organized. The Deathworlders, as they would later be called, moved like shadows among the chaos. They did not shout, they did not make demands. They advanced, neutralizing defenses with surgical efficiency. Turrets that had once been thought impenetrable melted under strange energy beams. Drones were torn apart before their operators could react. Every move, every attack, was deliberate. Fkar's citizens hid in tunnels, looking up at the sky as the humans cleared the landing zones. Fear and awe mingled in their hearts. They had heard stories of human brutality in distant systems, but they had never imagined seeing it firsthand. And now, the humans were here. Hundreds of them, fully armed, fully prepared, and utterly unstoppable. By the time the first contact squads reached the colony's main square, the aliens were already broken. Thalcor could only watch as humans approached without hesitation, their weapons trained, their steps steady. He realized with a sick twist in his stomach that no SOS could have summoned anything weaker than this. The humans were not coming to negotiate. They were coming to answer. And their answer would not be mercy. The sky above Fkar was a burning canvas of light and motion. Where once there had been calm, the void now shimmered with the arrival of humanity's full force. Massive dropships hovered above the city, their engines humming like the heartbeat of a predator. One by one, the humans descended, landing with precision that defied expectation. Colonists peered from windows and narrow observation decks, unable to tear their eyes away from the unfolding spectacle. They had expected rescue ships from the Galactic Council, or perhaps reinforcement from neighboring systems. Not this. Not a legion of humans who looked as if they had stepped out of legend. Soldiers in black and silver armor poured from the dropships, weapons glinting, each figure moving in perfect sync with the others. Their helmets obscured their faces, but even without seeing them, the colonists could feel the silent threat radiating from these strangers. There was no fanfare, no announcements, no words of diplomacy. Just movement, silent, calculated, deadly. Commander Thalcor bellowed orders into his comms, his voice cracking with anger and disbelief. Deploy all ground units. Intercept them at the landing zones. They cannot be allowed to establish positions. But his voice fell into a void of inefficiency. Alien troops scrambled to obey, their formations sloppy, their coordination lacking. The humans anticipated every move. A small squad of alien soldiers attempted a frontal assault, racing toward the nearest human units. Their energy rifles fired in rapid bursts, beams of green light streaking through the atmosphere. The humans, however, reacted with inhuman timing. One soldier, barely a few meters tall, raised a rifle that seemed ordinary at first glance. In an instant, a pulse of energy shot out, striking the alien squad. The beams of green light fizzled, their weapons overloaded, and the aliens were thrown back by a concussive force, sprawled across the landing pad. Lyra, watching from the command tower, could hardly believe her eyes. They anticipated the attack before it even started, she whispered. They aren't just fast, they think faster than any creature I've ever known. The humans moved forward in waves, each step measured, each strike precise. They did not panic when confronted with resistance. Instead, they neutralized it with efficiency that bordered on cruelty. Small alien drones buzzed toward the humans, attempting to harass them, but the soldiers responded almost instinctively. Energy pulses shattered the drones mid-flight, leaving trails of sparks that rained down on the ground. Even as chaos reigned around them, the humans did not falter. Their discipline was terrifying. Colonists who had hidden behind barricades began to peek out, realizing that these humans were not like anything they had feared. They were organized, ruthless, and completely in control. Thalcor's panic deepened. Reinforce the central plaza. Hold them at all costs. A squad of alien reinforcements rushed into position, only to be met by humans who had already anticipated their arrival. Without hesitation, the soldiers fired, striking the aliens before they could even aim. The ground shook as energy blasts tore through armored units, and alien screams echoed across the colony. FCAR had never experienced such destruction in a single night. And yet, amid the destruction, the humans did not advance recklessly. They moved carefully, controlling the battlefield. They bypassed civilians where possible, avoiding unnecessary casualties. Their strikes were precise, aimed at the enemy, not the innocent. The colonists, peeking from cover, began to whisper among themselves. "They are protecting us." Lyra frowned, realizing that these humans were unlike any invader she had ever studied. They did not seek conquest, they sought results. The SOS, weak and desperate, had not gone unanswered. Humanity had arrived, not as saviors in a conventional sense, but as predators answering a call, reshaping the rules of engagement in a way the aliens could never predict. The Deathworlders advanced toward the heart of the colony with relentless determination. The streets, once bustling with life, were now cleared by their presence. Alien defenders tried to regroup, forming makeshift barricades and attempting ambushes, but the humans had anticipated every tactic. The soldiers were not just trained, they seemed almost superhuman, moving faster than eyes could follow, striking with deadly accuracy. A small squadron of alien flyers attempted to attack from above. They swooped down, firing lasers in wild arcs. But the humans reacted with uncanny coordination. Energy shields popped up, deflecting blasts, and the flyers were shredded before they could reach the soldiers. Explosions lit the sky, each detonation punctuated by silence as the humans advanced without hesitation. By the time the first wave of Deathworlders reached the central plaza, the aliens were in full retreat. Command posts had fallen, weapons depots were in ruins, and morale had collapsed. Falcor stared in disbelief at the human soldiers moving with cold efficiency, the city now fully under their control. The humans paused only briefly, scanning their surroundings, ensuring no threat remained. Then, without a word, they began securing key points across the colony: power stations, communication towers, and transport hubs. They were not interested in looting or destruction. They were here for control, for order, and perhaps most frighteningly, for a message. Humanity had arrived, fully prepared, and utterly unstoppable. From the observation decks, colonists whispered in awe and fear. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide. Laborers dropped their tools, unable to look away. Even seasoned soldiers could not deny it, the humans were a force beyond reckoning. Lyra turned to Falcor, her voice trembling. "Commander, we underestimated them. This is not a rescue. This is an invasion the likes of which the galaxy has never seen." Falcor said nothing, his mind racing, but deep down he knew it. These humans, these Deathworlders, were no ordinary species. They were an entire legion, answering an SOS not with caution or negotiation, but with absolute dominance. And FCAR would never be the same. The destruction of FCAR's defenses sent shockwaves through nearby systems. As word spread, panic gripped the colonies and fleets surrounding the Zareth star cluster. Reports of the humans' arrival, their unmatched precision, and the overwhelming force of the Deathworlders traveled faster than any official message could. Alien leaders who had always considered humans a minor threat now faced a reality far more terrifying. On the command bridge of the flagship Krellis Dominator, Admiral Zater slammed his claws against the console. They destroyed FCAR in a matter of hours. His voice was barely audible over the cacophony of alarms. "How is this possible? The humans, how?" An officer at his side stammered. "Admiral, it's a full legion." They answered an SOS from a tiny outpost. With a fleet this size? They're unstoppable. Zater clenched his teeth, his pride wounded. Alien strategy had always relied on numbers, superior technology, and intimidation. Yet these humans were rewriting all expectations. Even a small SOS call had summoned a force capable of dismantling a fortified colony and wiping out disciplined troops in minutes. Meanwhile, across neighboring colonies, similar scenes played out. Civilians watched in disbelief as news feeds broadcast images of the humans' black and silver armor, their glowing weapons, and the devastation left in their wake. Panic was contagious. Entire sectors began evacuating, abandoning trade stations, resource hubs, and cities in fear of the Deathworlders. Back on Fkar, the remaining alien soldiers struggled to regroup. Commander Thalkor barked orders, but hesitation and fear ran rampant. His troops had never faced an enemy so fast, so precise, and so entirely in control. Every attempt to mount a counterattack ended in disaster. Lasers and plasma fire fell harmlessly on shields that absorbed or redirected the blasts. Alien tactics, honed over decades of warfare, failed against humans who seemed to anticipate every move. Even the civilian population, who had once trusted the Council's promises of safety, began fleeing en masse. Ships that could have been used for counterattacks were commandeered for evacuation. The city's transport hubs were clogged with frightened colonists, desperate to escape a threat they could neither understand nor fight. The humans moved like shadows through the city. They did not scream or shout, they did not indiscriminately kill. They struck with purpose, eliminating threats, securing critical points, and maintaining order in the chaos they had created. Colonists who had once feared alien soldiers now watched in awe. These humans were organized, efficient, and terrifyingly capable. In orbit, the first alien reinforcements began to arrive. Squadrons of fighters raced toward the colony, hoping to stabilize the situation. But the humans were ready. Anti-air turrets, strategically positioned during the initial landing, obliterated the incoming ships before they could reach the city. The sound of explosions echoed across the plains, sending shudders through the ground. The alien fleet faltered. Admiral Zader realized the full scale of the threat. "It is not just one colony," he admitted grimly. "They will respond wherever an SOS is sent. The humans, they are everywhere. And they are coming." Panic escalated further as more SOS signals, real or imagined, poured in from colonies across nearby sectors. Each one triggered the appearance of humans, each a full legion descending with the same precision and efficiency. Alien leaders tried to warn each other, but the humans moved faster than any message could travel. Evacuations became chaotic, and communication networks overloaded with panic broadcasts. Even the bravest alien soldiers felt fear they had never known. Units that had fought across the galaxy in countless wars hesitated, second-guessed themselves, and sometimes abandoned their posts. Rumors spread of humans striking entire fleets before they even reached their targets. The legends were true, and far worse than anyone had imagined. Meanwhile, the Deathworlders advanced across Fkar, now controlling every critical point. Their presence was not just about conquest, it was a demonstration of capability. Every action they took sent a clear message: any SOS from the galaxy would not summon hope, it would summon humanity's wrath. The humans' silence amplified the terror. They did not speak to the aliens. They did not issue demands or threats. Their movements alone conveyed dominance. Every step, every weapon raised, every fallen alien reinforced the realization that these were not ordinary humans. They were a force of nature, unstoppable and precise. In the colony's central tower, Thalkor's eyes darted nervously to every screen. Entire cities in neighboring systems were beginning to panic, fleets were breaking formation, and colonies were evacuating without orders. "How do we fight an enemy that anticipates every move?" he shouted, voice cracking. Lyra, standing beside him, shook her head. "We can't. Not with conventional tactics. They are not just powerful, they are calculated. Every step is pre-planned. Every reaction, expected." The reality settled over them like a storm. The humans had answered the SOS, yes, but not to help in the way the aliens expected. They had come to dominate, to punish, and to ensure no threat could ever rise against humanity without consequence. And now, the panic that spread across the galaxy was only beginning. For the first time, many colonies realized the simple truth: humanity was no longer a species to underestimate. They were a force of unparalleled power, and their arrival had changed the rules of the galaxy forever. The panic was contagious, the fear absolute, and the humans, silent, calculating, unstoppable. By the time the first light of Kar's twin suns crept over the horizon, the colony had transformed into a landscape of chaos. Smoke curled from shattered buildings, twisted metal littered the streets, and the distant echoes of explosions vibrated through the ground. Yet amid the devastation, the humans moved like shadows, organized, relentless, and terrifyingly precise. Commander Thalcor's troops had attempted to regroup overnight, forming defensive lines and barricades in the hope of slowing the human advance. But each move the aliens made seemed anticipated. The Deathworlders, as they were now feared across the colony, did not just strike, they orchestrated. Every squad moved in perfect harmony, covering each other, cutting off alien escape routes, and neutralizing threats with deadly efficiency. From the observation towers, colonists watched in awe. Where alien soldiers panicked, humans remained calm. Where defenses faltered, humans exploited them instantly. Every laser turret they approached was neutralized, every drone they faced destroyed, and every ambush planned by the aliens collapsed before it even began. A small squad of alien fighters attempted a desperate attack from a nearby ridge. Energy beams streaked toward the advancing humans, hoping to catch them off guard. But the Deathworlders reacted like a single organism. Shields deployed in microseconds, absorbing the blasts, while simultaneous counterattacks shredded the alien squad. The ground trembled as explosions tore through armored units, scattering debris in every direction. Lyra, watching the battlefield from the command tower, could hardly believe what she saw. It's like they can see everything before it happens, she whispered. They don't just fight, they control the battlefield itself. Even the human silence added to the terror. No war cries, no shouting, no panic, just methodical, disciplined movements that made it clear they were always in charge. The aliens began to realize that this was not a typical engagement. They were not facing a race of ordinary soldiers, they were facing predators. Thalcor's attempts at coordination only resulted in confusion. Units that had once executed complex maneuvers flawlessly now collided, panicked, or were destroyed before they could fire a shot. Each failure fed into the humans' precision. Every time an alien squad tried to flank or retreat, they found themselves trapped, cut off by squads they hadn't even noticed approaching. Colonists who had hidden in the shadows began to notice something else. The humans were not recklessly violent. Civilians were not harmed unnecessarily. Energy pulses and explosions focused on alien combatants, never straying into the alleys where families hid. Some whispered among themselves in disbelief, these humans were terrifying, but they were also protecting them. Above the city, human snipers stationed on high platforms picked off alien officers coordinating resistance. Their timing was perfect, each shot disrupted the chain of command, leaving alien troops directionless. In the open streets, small squads of Deathworlders advanced together, their movements synchronized like a deadly dance. One group would engage an enemy force, while another squad blocked reinforcements, and yet another secured key locations. Every move served a purpose. The alien fleet, still hovering at the edge of the atmosphere, attempted to bombard the humans from orbit. Missiles streaked downward, and energy beams lashed toward the landing zones. But the humans had anticipated orbital attacks as well. Advanced shielding deployed, deflecting the bombardment. Countermeasures launched from the ground intercepted incoming projectiles, sending debris raining harmlessly into the open fields beyond the city. Even the alien engineers, desperate to activate defense systems, were unable to act before the humans struck. Entire command centers were disabled in seconds, not destroyed recklessly, but dismantled with surgical accuracy. Data cores, communication arrays, and weapon caches were neutralized, leaving the aliens unable to coordinate or respond effectively. A group of colonists huddled in a collapsed building, watching as a squad of Deathworlders advanced down a street. Their leader moved silently, assessing the area, signaling with subtle gestures. In moments, alien resistance along the street collapsed, and the squad moved on without a single civilian harmed. The colonists exchanged glances, a mixture of fear and awe in their eyes. Humanity had arrived, not with brute force alone, but with unmatched skill. Commander Thalcor, forced to watch from a hidden command point, clenched his fists. How can a single species be this effective? He muttered to himself. We outnumber them. We should be winning. And yet, every move we make fails. Lyra, her expression grim, nodded. They've studied us. They know our tactics, our weaknesses. They fight like hunters who have already mapped the forest. Every step we take is expected. By midday, the humans had secured the majority of the colony's strategic locations. Alien forces were either destroyed, captured, or scattered in hopeless retreat. Streets once choked with defenders were now eerily silent, except for the controlled movements of the Deathworlders. And still, there was no celebration, no cheering, only the disciplined march of soldiers completing their mission with lethal precision. For the first time, colonists began to understand the terrifying truth. These humans were not just soldiers. They were an unstoppable force, answering a call for help with skill, strategy, and lethal efficiency beyond anything the galaxy had ever known. And their message was clear: anyone who underestimated humanity would pay the price. Omander Thalcor sat alone in the darkened command room, the flickering lights casting shadows across his face. The sounds of the city, explosions, alarms, and the distant hum of human energy weapons, filtered through reinforced walls. For the first time in his long career, he felt something foreign: fear. Not for himself, but for his people, his colony, and the very notion of survival. The alien commander's mind raced. Reports from the field had been grim all night. Alien patrols had been decimated, supply lines cut, and the streets of Kar were crawling with Deathworlders. Each human squad seemed to anticipate the aliens' movements, striking with precision that no training, no experience, could counter. They are everywhere, Thalcor muttered to himself, claws tapping the console in frustration. How can a single species move with such speed, such foresight? Lyra appeared in the doorway, her expression grave. Commander, our forces are broken. Communication lines are down. Even reinforcements from neighboring colonies will be too late. If we do not act now, Kar will fall completely. Thalcor clenched his jaw. Then we fight. We cannot surrender to humans. We will not. He gestured to the holomap of the colony. Mobilize the fleet. Prepare every ship, every fighter, every weapon we have. We will strike at the humans, overwhelm them with numbers. Lyra hesitated. Commander, we've tried numbers. They anticipate everything. Even our largest fleets failed to slow them. They are not just soldiers, they are hunters. And hunters are always one step ahead. Thalcor's pride burned hotter than fear. Then we adapt. We must. They cannot anticipate every tactic. They are still human. They have limits. Across the colony, preparations for the alien counterattack began. Starships roared to life in orbital hangars. Squadrons of fighters assembled, energy weapons charged. Every available soldier was armed, every defensive system recalibrated. The humans had cleared most of the streets, but Thalcor believed he could reclaim the ground with sheer force. He refused to believe humanity's dominance was absolute. Hours later, the alien fleet emerged from the shadows of the outer stations. Hundreds of ships formed an aggressive formation, all directed at the humans now controlling key points of Kar. Energy cannons flared as the first volleys were fired. Lasers streaked across the sky, missiles tore through the atmosphere, and explosions rippled across the city. But the humans were ready. Their shields flared, absorbing the orbital bombardment, while ground units redirected attackers into ambushes. Entire squadrons of alien fighters were destroyed before reaching the humans' positions. Dropships attempting to land reinforcements were intercepted mid-air. The streets became a gauntlet, and every corner hid a squad prepared to strike. Thalcor watched in disbelief as his meticulously planned attack collapsed. "No, this cannot be," he shouted. "We have numbers. We have firepower. How can they?" Lyra's voice was quiet but sharp. "They've predicted it, Commander. Every move, every formation, every plan. They have studied us. They know what we would do before we do it. The alien commander slammed his claw on the console, the sound echoing through the room. Then we must change tactics. We will strike where they least expect. Split forces. Hit from multiple angles. We will confuse them. But as the alien units attempted to implement this strategy, the humans responded flawlessly. Deathworlders positioned on high towers struck key units with pinpoint precision. Ambushes designed to trap them were dismantled with tactical countermeasures. Alien squads found themselves isolated, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered at every turn. Even the civilians, huddled in basements and tunnels, could hear the chaos above. Explosions tore through barricades, alien screams echoed down empty streets, and the relentless footsteps of humans advancing toward every strategic point reverberated through the city. The aliens realized the horrifying truth. No matter how many reinforcements they sent, no matter how many attacks they coordinated, the humans were always one step ahead. Thalcor felt the weight of failure pressing down. Every report from the field brought more devastation. Entire wings of soldiers had been annihilated, defensive turrets destroyed, and key officers eliminated. Hope, once a distant concept, had vanished. The commander's desperation grew. In a final attempt, he activated a fleet-wide signal, summoning all remaining forces for a coordinated strike on the human central position. It was a gamble, a last chance to break the enemy's hold. The humans, however, had anticipated it. As the alien ships approached, energy pulses erupted from hidden positions, cutting off reinforcements before they could engage. Streets designed for ambush were traps in themselves, and alien formations crumbled under precise, overwhelming attacks. Every maneuver, every calculated strike by Thalcor's forces, was countered with surgical efficiency. By the end of the day, the city was under complete human control. Thalcor's forces were scattered, his fleet decimated, and the Deathworlders had achieved full dominance without chaos or hesitation. The aliens had fought with courage and skill, but against humanity's precision, strategy, and relentless force, it had all been meaningless. Thalcor sank into his command chair, exhaustion and despair etched into his face. He had underestimated the humans, and now his colony had paid the price. How do we fight them? He whispered, more to himself than anyone else. How do we survive? Lyra, standing beside him, shook her head. We can't. Not with what we have left. The humans, they are a force beyond comprehension. They answer every SOS. And now, Commander. Now we know why the galaxy fears them. Outside, the Deathworlders continued their march through the city, securing key positions and leaving a warning that could not be ignored. Humanity does not negotiate with weakness. It answers calls for help with overwhelming, calculated force. And any who dare to underestimate them will face destruction beyond imagination. Thalcor finally realized the terrifying truth. The humans were not just saviors or soldiers. They were a force of nature, unstoppable, precise, and inevitable. And the galaxy had only just begun to understand the consequences of their arrival. The sun rose over Fkar, casting pale light on streets still scarred by the chaos of the night. Smoke curled from toppled buildings, and twisted metal glimmered where energy blasts had left their mark. Yet amidst the destruction, humanity stood unshaken. The Deathworlders had not just survived, they had dominated, demonstrating a power the aliens could scarcely comprehend. Colonists peeked from hiding spots in awe and fear. Humans moved with methodical precision, not in mindless conquest, but with a disciplined efficiency that made every action purposeful. They secured strategic points, the power stations, communication arrays, transport hubs, with minimal collateral damage. Civilians who had cowered underground now saw a strange spectacle. The humans were terrifyingly effective, yet strangely protective. Commander Thalcor watched from his hidden command post, rage and disbelief warring within him. His troops were scattered, many trapped or destroyed, and yet the humans moved deliberately, calmly, as if every possible outcome had been anticipated. The alien commander clenched his fists. They control everything. Nothing escapes their notice. From the central plaza, a squad of Deathworlders advanced, scanning every street and alley. Their weapons were silent, their movements precise, and their presence alone forced alien soldiers into retreat. Where a few units tried to regroup, humans intercepted them with unmatched speed. Strategic locations were neutralized before the aliens could even react. Thalcor ordered his last remaining officers to hold the capital district at all costs. He sent patrols into streets he hoped were weak points, attempting to trap the humans in choke points. But it was already too late. Every street, every building, every route had been anticipated. When the aliens moved, humans countered. When the aliens hid, humans found them. Each step, each plan, was met with a silent but deadly response. Lyra, standing beside Thalcor, whispered, "Commander, we are outmatched. Not by numbers, not by weapons. By strategy. Their power isn't just physical, it's tactical genius." Indeed, it was. Humans advanced in perfect formations, covering each other's movements, eliminating threats before they could organize. Their weapons, long-range rifles, plasma disruptors, and devastating close combat tools, were deployed with precision that left no room for error. The humans' movements were synchronized, as if they were guided by a single mind, yet each soldier acted independently, adapting to the chaotic battlefield. Alien reinforcements attempted to counterattack from orbital platforms, dropping bombers and artillery units on strategic locations. But the humans had already secured defensive positions, deploying anti-orbital shielding and automated interceptors. Entire waves of bombers were destroyed before reaching ground targets. The Deathworlders' planning had accounted for every threat, both from above and on the streets below. Colonists who had once feared for their lives now whispered about the humans in awe. "They're protecting us," a young child murmured to her mother as she peered from a cracked wall. "But they're so scary." Indeed, the humans were terrifying, but the efficiency and control they displayed saved countless lives that would have been lost in an uncoordinated fight. In the alien command tower, Thalcor faced a bitter reality. Even with remaining troops, even with orbital support, Fkar was lost. Every attempt at counterattack had failed. Entire squads of his best soldiers had been neutralized before they could fire a single shot. Every tactical maneuver had been anticipated and countered. Humanity was not just powerful, they were unstoppable. The Deathworlders began consolidating control of key facilities. Energy grids were restored under their supervision, ensuring civilians would have power and water. Communication arrays were repaired, not to broadcast threats, but to re-establish order. The humans were leaving a clear message: they did not conquer recklessly. They dominated with intelligence, discipline, and precision. Even as aliens tried to flee or hide, humans secured escape routes to prevent panic from causing uncontrolled chaos. Stray groups of alien civilians were guided to safe zones, shielded from the destructive power of the Deathworlders. It was a display of strength and calculated mercy, a paradox that left witnesses shaken. Humanity's power was not only in brute force but in control, in knowing exactly when to strike and when to spare. Thalcor finally realized the full scale of their dominance. "This is not just a battle. This is a demonstration of what they are capable of," he said grimly. "We have faced threats before, but nothing like this. Nothing." Lyra's gaze followed a squad of humans as they secured the last of the critical infrastructure. "They are not here to negotiate. They are here to show us the cost of defiance. And if this is the result of a single SOS, imagine what happens when the full force of humanity is unleashed." By the day's end, the city was under full human control. The aliens had suffered significant losses, yet the humans had maintained order and minimized civilian casualties. The Deathworlders stood not as conquerors, but as enforcers of a new reality. Humanity answers SOS calls, not with negotiation or caution, but with unmatched precision, overwhelming force, and tactical genius. Colonists whispered among themselves, realizing the terrifying truth: these humans were more than warriors. They were a force of nature. They had arrived unexpectedly, struck decisively, and left a message that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity had shown its true power, not just to destroy, but to dominate, control, and protect. and the aliens would never forget it. The skies above Kar, once calm and familiar, now bore witness to a single undeniable fact: humanity had arrived. And the galaxy would never again underestimate the Deathworlders. The story of Kar's fall spread like wildfire across the nearby star systems. Alien colonies and empires that had long dismissed humanity as weak or insignificant now trembled at the mere mention of their name. News feeds, intercepted communications, and whispers in the void all carried the same message: the Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Zader's fleet, stationed on the outskirts of the Zareth cluster, shivered under the weight of reality. He had witnessed only fragments of the humans' assault on Kar, but the reports from survivors painted a picture far worse than his imagination could conceive. Entire colonies fell in hours, fleets shattered before reaching the planet, and humans advanced with the precision of a predator that had already studied every possible move. "They answered a single SOS," Zader said, his claws tightening around the edge of his console. "A single distress call, and yet they moved like an entire armada prepared in advance. How can any species, be this unstoppable?" His officers were equally stunned, some whispering prayers, others silent with disbelief. Across the galaxy, similar reactions played out. Merchant guilds ceased trading with risky systems. Governors evacuated their most valuable civilians. Military strategists pored over intercepted footage, struggling to understand how humanity could achieve such dominance. Fear replaced arrogance, caution replaced recklessness, and a single word echoed through every council chamber: Deathworlders. On Kar itself, humans had completed their operations. Key systems were secured, and the colonists, terrified yet unharmed, began to emerge from hiding. They had witnessed precision, control, and a form of military dominance unlike anything they had imagined. Whispers of humanity's tactics spread like wildfire through the population. Even those who had once distrusted humans now regarded them with awe. Commander Thalkor's forces were in shambles. Small groups of survivors attempted to flee, only to find escape routes monitored and controlled by Deathworlder squads. The aliens' own fear, once contained, had spread through every sector. No one dared resist openly, and those who tried were swiftly neutralized. The ripple of fear extended beyond the immediate cluster. Neighboring empires, previously indifferent to human outposts, scrambled to reinforce their borders. Communication satellites, defense grids, and fleets were deployed in record time. Yet despite their efforts, every system that attempted to prepare found themselves a step behind. Humanity had already anticipated the potential responses and adjusted accordingly. On a distant world, a council of alien leaders convened in emergency session. Their screens displayed live feeds and intercepted communications from Kar. Images of black and silver armored soldiers, moving like shadows among explosions and chaos, left the council speechless. "Are we certain these are humans?" one elder asked, voice trembling. "I thought tales of their brutality were exaggerations, propaganda even. Yet what I see, this is far beyond anything I imagined." Another member, a general with decades of experience in interstellar warfare, shook his head. "Exaggerations? No. This is a species unlike any other. They answer SOS signals with full-scale, calculated assaults. They do not negotiate. They do not falter. They dominate. And now, the galaxy knows it." Back on Kar, humans were already leaving a lasting impression. While they had neutralized the threats and secured the colony, they did not linger unnecessarily. Strategic points were secured, communications restored, and civilians ensured safe passage. Their presence was brief but absolute. The message they left behind was clear: any SOS, anywhere in the galaxy, would summon humanity's full power. And those who underestimated them would pay the price. Colonists whispered of the humans' silent movements, of the precision strikes, and of the terrifying aura that accompanied every soldier. The Deathworlders were not just fighters, they were legends brought to life. Every alien survivor carried the story forward, transmitting their fear to nearby colonies. The ripple of terror continued to expand, and the galaxy itself seemed to pause in anticipation of humanity's next move. Even the Galactic Council, which had long considered itself the ultimate authority in the region, could no longer dismiss humanity. Intelligence reports, intercepted SOS signals, and surviving alien testimonies all pointed to one undeniable truth: humans were no longer a minor player in galactic affairs. They were a force to be reckoned with, disciplined beyond comprehension, and utterly unpredictable. The ripple did not stop at fear. Strategy shifted. Fleets that would have previously attacked human colonies now hesitated, defensive lines were reinforced instead of offensive missions launched, and treaties were reconsidered. Diplomats worked feverishly to understand how a species could respond to distress calls with overwhelming force, yet maintain restraint toward civilians. On Fkar, Commander Thalkor finally faced the truth. His fleet scattered, his city lost, and his morale shattered. He realized the humans were not simply soldiers, they were architects of dominance. Every move, every strategy, every strike had been calculated with an intelligence and precision beyond his understanding. "They are a new standard," he admitted bitterly to Lyra, who remained by his side. The galaxy cannot fight them like any other enemy. They are something else entirely." Lyra nodded silently. "We have seen the future, Commander. And in that future, humans are the hunters. The galaxy will remember this night for centuries. Every empire, every colony, every fleet that dares to oppose them will know what happens when an SOS is answered by the Deathworlders." The stars above Kar seemed to pulse with the knowledge that humanity had left its mark. The ripple of fear, respect, and caution spread across light years, reshaping alliances, strategies, and perceptions. The galaxy would never again be the same. The city of Kar lay in the quiet aftermath of destruction and dominance. Smoke still curled from shattered buildings, streets were scarred by energy blasts, and alien soldiers who had survived cowered in hiding. Yet through it all, humanity remained calm, organized, and unyielding. The Deathworlders had done what no one expected. They had answered the SOS, defeated the enemy, secured the civilians, and left a lasting mark on the galaxy. Commander Thalkor stared out from the ruins of his command tower. His pride had been shattered, his forces decimated, and his arrogance exposed as folly. He had faced many enemies in his lifetime, but none like these humans. They were not just strong, they were relentless, disciplined, and utterly precise. Every strike, every movement, every tactical choice had been calculated to perfection. And now, the survivors of his colony would carry the memory of their arrival forever. From the streets below, humans moved with quiet efficiency, securing critical systems and ensuring civilians were safe. They did not celebrate, they did not gloat. They acted with purpose, finishing their mission with the same calm precision they had begun with. Communication towers were repaired, energy grids restored, and evacuation routes secured for those who had fled during the chaos. Every action, measured. Every decision, deliberate. Lyra, standing beside Thalkor, whispered, "They are leaving, Commander, but the message is clear. They don't just respond, they dominate. And they don't forget." Thalkor's claws clenched, shaking slightly. "This isn't just about Fkar. It's about the galaxy. Every system that dares call for help, or refuses to respect humanity, will learn the same lesson. They are inevitable." The Deathworlders gathered at the edge of the city, preparing to depart. Their ships, black and silver, stood silently against the horizon. The soldiers themselves were motionless, scanning the area one last time to ensure nothing remained that could threaten the civilians or their mission. Then, without ceremony, they boarded their ships, engines igniting with a quiet roar that echoed across the empty streets. Colonists watched in awe. They had witnessed precision, strength, and discipline unlike anything they had ever seen. The humans were terrifying, but also protective. They were a force that could not be ignored, a species that could answer a desperate call with overwhelming power and flawless execution. And now, they were gone, leaving only a message: the galaxy would never again underestimate humanity. As the fleet ascended into orbit, Commander Thalkor made a bitter vow. "We have survived, but we will remember. And next time, Next time, perhaps we will be ready. But deep down, even he knew the truth. There was no preparing for a force that could strike with such precision, anticipate every tactic, and dominate an entire colony with calm efficiency. Humanity had not just won, they had redefined what it meant to be a military power in the galaxy. Back in orbit, the human ships vanished into the void as silently as they had appeared. The SOS had been answered, but not with rescue alone. It had been answered with overwhelming force, strategic brilliance, and an unforgettable warning. The message was clear: the Deathworlders are not to be underestimated. Any threat, any SOS, any defiance would be met with the same precision and power. Across the galaxy, the ripple of fear and respect continued. Neighboring empires began fortifying their defenses, colonies reconsidered alliances, and every communication network buzzed with stories of the humans' arrival. The legends of the Deathworlders were no longer tales, they were reality. On Vkar, the surviving colonists began to rebuild, their lives forever changed by the humans' presence. They whispered stories of black and silver soldiers who moved like shadows, of precision strikes that left alien forces broken, and of a discipline that seemed almost supernatural. Every survivor carried the same thought: humanity had arrived, and it was unstoppable. Commander Thalcor, broken and humbled, finally understood the final, terrifying truth. The galaxy had a new force to fear, respect, and reckon with. Humanity had answered the call, not for glory, not for conquest, but with an efficiency, discipline, and power that no one could match. And the memory of Vkar would spread across the stars, a warning to all who dared underestimate the Deathworlders. As the last human ship disappeared into the void, the silence that followed was heavy. The galaxy had witnessed a force unlike any other. The lesson was written across Vkar in fire, smoke, and precision: humanity does not ask for permission. Humanity does not negotiate weakness. And humanity always answers. The SOS had been answered. The galaxy would remember.